We'll get into fragments again. Fragments helps us to have a UI defined as an object so that easily I can have the required objects on board on the layout, and if a space available I can keep more than one fragment. If a space is less, I can keep one fragment. And since using the fragmentation mean the view is split into various fragments, and it's like a standard Java object. Each view you can handle and have the data sent and received between them. The one what I'm trying to create is here. I'd like to display one fragment when screen is in portrait mode. When a screen goes into a landscape mode, I'll display the two fragments. We often say this kind of methodology is as a master detailed flow. For example, a list comes. As you click on the list, the next activity pops up and display the information about the list. Whereas if a space is available, assume if it is a tablet, the list could be kept in the left, and the content, the whatever detail, could be kept in the right itself. So as the user clicks, the right content could be loaded instead of calling another activity. So right now the space what I'm going to consider here is the landscape. So landscape slightly the width is higher. So I would like to utilize this space for loading additional fragment. A small idea, of course, it's not so complicated. And in fact, it's not restricted to fragments alone, but having this particular thing using a fragment would help you to manage so easily. For example, if you are using different layouts for different view, landscape and portrait, you can still achieve that. But you would be very careful about initializing the object, because in landscape, a couple of objects widgets may be available. In portrait, that widget may not be available. So initializing a wrong object may give you an exception errors. We'll see what I'm also. If you do not understand, let's see in action. Maybe you can understand what I'm trying to talk. Actually, there is a project. A Hello World project is already available for such an example. Something master detail, whatever. You notice this master detail flow, which is already available as one of a Hello World project. This is what I'm trying to create. This particular thing, if you see the description, allow users to view a collection of objects as well as detail for each object. This flow is presented using two columns on the tablet side screens and one column on handset and smaller screen. This template creates two activity, a master fragment and a detail fragment. Of course, I'm trying to create that. Instead of having this thing pre-populated, we'll see in detail how I can create from the scratch. So I'm just going ahead with the blank activity. Okay, go whatever default. Okay, so no errors now. Before doing anything, I'd like to see what is the activity main. How is it opened? It's just a relative layout with the text view there. I'd like to have a list in here instead of this one. Maybe I can get them from a previous project. What I can do, I'll keep a list. As you click on the list, it will load an image. Uh, I mean, locally loaded image. I'm not going to call a web service. I thought of doing it, but as of now, we do not have options to call external URLs. So I will load those images from local project itself. I don't know where my image gallery. I remember. Yeah. Before starting, I'll also create new folder inside the resource directory, layout land landscape. So any XML layout file you can keep it here, which will be rendered only your device is in landscape mode. You need to make sure the objects most of the time should match. For example, uh, if you in a layout which is a default layout, usually portrait mode, if you have a list view here, make sure the same list view is also present in the landscape, because there should be some common objects present so that the layout could at least load it. If you have a completely different objects in a different layout, you will have a trouble if you do not have a subsequent switch case or if else block. So let's see what kind of scenarios I'm trying to reproduce here. So I wanted to do everything through the fragment itself. So one fragment already we created for SMS list, but anyway, I'll write it again. Make it image list fragment, which is going to contain primarily a list view itself is more than enough. But anyway, I'll wrap inside a linear layout if at all need to display some text along with the list view. So I'll put it inside a linear layout. And I say I'll just make it as an image list. It's already vertical. I kept it inside a linear layout. I could have set only the list view itself as a main, I mean, the parent tag, but I may attach some sort of header or something else here. So just kept it inside a linear layout. So there is a list view. This is one fragment, and I'm going to create a detail fragment. I mean, the name is just a detail fragment, or maybe I can say image detail, something like I can keep it. That also I'll wrap it inside a linear layout, or maybe a relative layout. Keep it something different. Keep a text view as well. Just write some placeholder. Just trying to decorate. I can use safely white and black, so contrast look and feel. Okay, and since it's a relative layout, I'm going to keep one layout or widget as a sticky, or in this case it's going to be on the top. An image view which is going to be displayed. Some main image. I'll give a name slightly different because there's a common name like image is already available. Content description, maybe give the app name itself. I'm going to keep it as a I'll give a name title. So an image is going to be loaded here. For testing, let's see if any image, how it looks like. It's going to be loaded like this. Okay. It will be for a placement purpose. The two fragments we have, and layout for this is a default layout which is going to load this things. I really don't know. One fragment it is going to load for a landscape. Oh, this gap. I'm loading through I mean the layout file itself. I had to create those classes anyway. Let me create first, then I'll come back. A fragment. We'll take a support fragment because my project supports minimum 2.2. So let it be a support fragment. Remember, on attach may not be important at this point, but remember this on attach would be called immediately when the view is loaded. I mean the fragment is loaded on the UI. Since I'm going to call the fragment through the XML file itself, the moment you call set content view, this on attach will be called. Not like before, I had plenty of time to have I mean my object created and attach the data, then finally load into an activity or any other holder. In this case, it will be loaded much faster, I mean much before, and of course since it is loaded in the XML file itself. Okay. And create view. It's already the usual one. You may be knowing it already. Hopefully, your previous exercise is completed. The resource dot layout dot image list, root in this case container, attached to roots files. I don't want this nullable stuff. Let us add the event listeners a little later. So first we have the fragments ready and see how things look in the portrait and landscape. So this is for image list fragment. Need to create one more fragment. Detail fragment. I'll directly implement on create view alone. Clear it out. Dot layout dot name image detail fragment. False. We'll also think about attaching the any listeners present. So another fragment is ready for us. So now I can attach it in the layout. This is an activity main layout which is going to be rendered when view is in, the phone is in uh, landscape mode. Keep a full width and height. List a fragment. Give ID. A fragment will be loaded, or if the device is in portrait view, and only one fragment. I feel I could keep under a linear layout because the landscape one I'm going to keep a linear layout. This is we can maintain the concurrency between the views or most of the views. So this is one single fragment for a portrait view. And I'm going to create the same TVT. This one I am going to create for a landscape. Remember the folder which one I have selected. This folder. It's going to be a horizontal one. Make sure you give the same ID. Hope you still remember what is layout weight. This is for one fragment and one more fragment, which is going to occupy twice the space of the first one. In this case, it's going to be image detail fragment. Oh, sorry, I haven't loaded the fragment yet. What is the base align false? We'll come back to that. What is that? But at least it is recommend me to keep something like this. Okay, if you notice this landscape, the side by side two fragments are going to be loaded. I mean, one is for the list, another one is for a detail. For testing it, I need to have some dummy data so that it will be loaded on the list view. Okay, just time being, I'll load it locally, then I'll modify maybe if you come back after the break. My list view I will have to initialize now. That's the name I gave. Image list. Time being, I'll use a array adapter because with the list populated only the fragment will look nice. So I think I'm just put in a wrong. This happens to me quite a lot of time. Okay. Oh, it's an integer. Sorry, I think I need to use a. I'll do one thing. Sometimes we forget the flow like this. The list view is going to display only the text, whereas the detail only is going to display the image. Okay, now it's string. Oh, my order is correct. I'll make it as the image names, not to avoid confusion. Okay. So this will load the image when a view is created. Okay, fine. The right fragment will already has a dummy image, so I hope it will look fine. So the main activity is calling a layout called activity main. Remember, the same name has been used in layout, I mean default layout as well as the landscape specific layout. So it won't be a problem to load it. Only thing, when it is going to be on the landscape, it's going to have a two fragment. When it is going to be in a portrait, it's going to have only one fragment. How to handle them, that's the next task. Let's see how it looks like. I don't know. Oh, okay. And I enable start activity, master detail, exception. Okay, let me see something wrong here. Inflate exception error. Something going wrong here. Let me find what's exactly going wrong. We don't see much problem here. Anything going wrong? Just view code, find view by ID. Maybe Maybe due to the backward compatibility, chances are there. Let me see. Let me troubleshoot what exactly going wrong. Sorry. To find fragment. I have it once initialized. I don't know whether that's the reason. It's strange. Okay, on view created, I have a trouble on setting the values. So maybe I can do that step little. Ah, yes. It is not image list fragment. It's just an image list. So the problem was the wrong ID mentioned. Just wondering why. Okay, so I have a kind of a list view populated. Let me switch back to, if you notice in a landscape, the list went into left and the right the image came. Means it loaded a different layout when a space available, and it loaded two fragments side by side because right now the layout is in landscape. I have a space. So the twice the width has been given for an image and one part of the space has been given for a list view. How to handle the callbacks, that's a different story. We have to see them. But shifting between them gives me a clear idea. So, for example, if a device is in portrait mode, I'll click the image, a new activity would be launched, and there I will see the images. Whereas in this case, in a landscape, as I click, the fragment loads there itself. no need to launch a new activity. I can load the image parallelly in the next fragment. So this a kind of a master detail flow, you can say. For example, this is a master and this is a detail. It's going to come here. So now I need to modify, of course, need to extend the code. As I click this image, the title of an image should be displayed and the different image should be loaded here. And as I click, the rest should be loaded here. And if I go to a portrait, again it should only display the list, and clicking an image name should be a different activity, and there the detail should be displayed. And also you have to save the state of a view. For example, right now I have clicked image 5 and suddenly I want to go back to, for example, this view. I should be taken back to a landscape and the selected image should be displayed. So anytime I can move between landscape and portrait, and I should have the events handled accordingly. So that could be a slightly challenging task. But anyway, somehow we have achieved loading two different fragments for a different, uh, orientation. For example, landscape and portrait. Landscape, since the width is available, I loaded two fragments, whereas in portrait, the size is the width is slightly limited, so I only loaded one single list view. So we are going to extend this code, of course, naturally. So how to have this kind of amps? We usually give this kind of a support for tablets where the width would be large, and the user will have a flexibility to have a easiest navigations. Fragments makes it much easier. Of course, I would not say using the fragment only this thing is possible. Uh, Using fragment, these things are becoming much easier. That's all I can say, because I can still load different layout for portrait and landscape without using fragments also. But handling the objects, the widgets, would be a difficult task, because some object would be present, some object would not be present in a portrait and landscape respectively. So that would be a difficult point to handle without a fragment. So fragment makes it much more easier, because the whole view itself is considered as a one single object. So I can easily manage that object, whether loading it or unloading it. Okay. Yeah. So I'll leave it up to here. Or maybe I'll extend this code a little further.